Yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My first question is to Mr. Balgord from the Canadian Anti-Hate Network. Mr. Balgord, would you suggest, or would you say that your organization is an objective organization?
We wear our biases on our sleeves, right? We are very proudly anti-fascist, and we focus on the far right. We focus on the far right because if you speak with anybody who is a researcher of this or an expert in national security threats, they will agree that ideologically motivated violent extremism threats primarily today are coming out of far right organizing. Thank you.
No, I appreciate the honesty, Mr. Balgord. It's important, and not diminishing some of the work that you do. I come from an area where last summer we had a 100-year-old church burned to the ground, and dozens of people had to be evacuated from an apartment building close by, which nearly went up in flames and killed dozens of people. But you just don't hear it talked about in this country, and I understand that it's not your organization's mandate to talk about these things. As you've said, you're clearly focused on the far right. My question is, during the convoy protests, your executive director, I believe that's his position, Bernie Faber, posted a tweet with a photo of a vile anti-Semitic flyer and claimed that this was a picture of the flyer being circulated in Ottawa among the trucker protesters. But upon further examination, it was proven that this exact same photo was taken in Miami, Florida, weeks before the protests ever began. Can you explain why the executive director of your organization was claiming that an anti-Semitic, that this photo was being circulated at the protests, when in fact it was a photo that was from a completely different country weeks before the protests?
Yes, thank you very much for giving me a way to address this. So first off, that was our chair. I'm the executive director, and I was privy to the email chain that led to him tweeting that out. So what had occurred was somebody had reached out who was in Ottawa, who said that they saw that flyer there and they provided the photo. At that moment, Bernie was not aware that the photo itself was taken from an American source. What the person was trying to communicate to our organization was that they saw the same flyer, but they had attached the photo from the States. So it was our error in not communicating that more clearly, where the photo itself originated from. What the person was reporting to us was that they had seen the same flyer in Ottawa. Thank you.
So you have no evidence other than hearsay that that flyer was actually being distributed in Ottawa, correct?
That is correct. We took the report from somebody on the ground, and our chair put the information out there. I would say we did see very similar messaging. In Toronto, there was somebody who was wearing a billboard with essentially the same messaging.
Let's move on here. We're talking about the Ottawa protest, but I appreciate your clarification on that matter. You've raised some pretty disturbing allegations about the potential for a terrorist attack, a mass violent event. I think we can all be thankful that this didn't happen during the protests, and I think it sort of undermines the argument that was being made by many, including by organizations such as yours, that this protest had violent motivations, that they had a desire to commit violence. I mean, the fact that we didn't see a terrorist attack, we didn't see a mass violent event, I mean, it sort of undermines the claim. But I just want to ask, you've connected the United We Roll protests, which came to Ottawa in 2018, I believe. A lot of people from Western Canada concerned about the carbon tax, pipelines being blocked. How do you draw this connection between, white supremacy and fascism with people that are concerned about protecting their livelihoods?
We don't. And I'm always very careful at every juncture to point out that not everybody that was involved in the convoy is necessarily racist or necessarily violent.
Broad generalization here about a protest and saying that it was organized by the same people, and that
yes,
this is a conspiracy to spread white supremacist and fascist views under the guise of pipeline and carbon tax politics. What evidence do you have to back up that claim?
Sure. So if you look back at the LVS Canada movement, and this is well documented, you will find hundreds of examples of death threats and racist comments towards Muslims. And the So that's the Elvis Canada movement, which I just addressed. In terms of your earlier comment about the organizers and how do we make statements of a nature, I'd point back to, one of the key influencers and organizers of the convoys, Pat King, who said the mandate would only end with bullets, right? We saw other organizers who had previously made Islamophobic
But nobody had
statements
ever
were
heard of
part
this
it.
Pat King fellow before these convoy protests in Ottawa, and yet you're saying that these people were involved with the United We Roll protests in 2018? Do you have any evidence to the direct connection? Can you provide that evidence? You've made this claim.
Sure. Tamara Litch was, in fact, an organizer of United We Roll, and she was one of the key organizers of the convoy. That's one example. Pat King got
please,
gig
like
at the time of the convoy.
We sometimes get, can you make a submission to the committee and provide us with this evidence? Like, you've said it, and I guess I'll take you at your word for now, but can you actually provide us written evidence to back up these claims?
Yes, we have. I'd be happy to share some of the articles we've already written on the subject with the committee.
And do these articles contain primary sources that back up the evidence, or are these opinion articles written by your admittedly not objective organization?
10-second answer, please.
Yes, everything is demonstrated in the articles. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now,